Welcome to another episode of Relatively Famous, the podcast where I, Chip White, interview relatives of famous people. Vanna White of Wheel of Fortune is my sister. That's why I started this podcast, so I can meet other relatives and hear their story, find out what their life is like compared to mine or different than mine. We grew up in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which, believe it or not, has an amazing, vibrant music background to it. Old R&B was been there forever, man, dancing the shag to classic R&B. Country music festival in Myrtle Beach. You got the House of Blues, and it's just a great place to hear some music. Alabama got their start there. They got Alabama Theater. If you want to know more about Myrtle Beach and how to plan a vacation there, go to visitmyrtlebeach.com. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com, all one word. And I say that about the music because my guest today is the daughter of a Canadian singer-songwriter. I get to go north of the border for this interview. Marty Butler was a singer-songwriter out of Canada. He had some hits, wrote some hits for other people. Today we get to interview his daughter, Kimberly Butler McMillan.
Relatively Famous podcast with Chip White. Kimberly,
welcome to Relatively Famous.
Thanks so much. Great to see you, Chip, as always.
Good to see you too. I'm going to be up front. I have known Kimberly for a couple of years, and she had talked about her dad being a singer. And once we started doing the podcast, I thought, you know what? This could be fun. Let's have Kimberly on because I know some about Kimberly, but I don't know everything, and I definitely don't know the whole connection with her dad. Kimberly, tell us a little bit first about who your father was so that people will know.
Sure. My dad's name was Marty Butler. He was a singer, songwriter, pianist, musician in Canada. And he did bring the magic. And he was had a number of top 10 hits in Canada on Canadian airplay and won a SOCAN award for over 100,000 airplays of one of the songs he wrote, Fly Little White Dove Fly, which was a big hit for the Bells, which was a large Canadian band in the late 70s. And he was himself gained some fame in the early 80s. And so I'm very proud that he was my father. He was also really known as a pianist in Canada. He was the Baldwin Man for Canada and was just the most beautiful piano player you've ever heard. And I miss him dearly. He unfortunately passed away in 1996, but I'm happy to speak about him today.
Well, we're going to talk a lot about you, but that's awesome. You did say that he taught piano lessons to a very famous Canadian singer.
Anne Murray, he did. And it's so funny because growing up, I didn't realize kind of who his connections were. I wish I had him around now to talk to him about more of the people that he was able to shake hands with and work with over the years. And Anne Murray, he did give her some piano lessons, and they kind of hung around in the same crowd. His manager also was a man named Ben Kay, and he was the co-manager of Celine Dion as well. So he rubbed elbows with some famous people.
Yeah, I've listened to some of his music. He's amazing. Is it kind of sad that he's passed, obviously, but that he didn't get more recognition in the States and worldwide, or did he get more than I'm aware of?
Well, Canadian musicians are blessed that Canada requires 60% of their airplay to come from Canadian musicians, and so Canadian content. And so he did gain a lot of recognition there. And that being said, I still get royalties from around the world, from the songs that are played. Take Another Look was one of his big hits. I get royalties from anywhere from Germany and the U.S. as well as Canada. And so it is sad that he didn't get more recognition. But the beautiful thing now that he is passed, is that his songs are still being played on the radio. People still hear his voice. My kids are blessed to be able to hear his voice as well. And so very proud that at least we have that. But to his credit, he's still on the radio. The last time I was in Toronto, I was in the back of a cab and I thought I knew the voice, and sure enough, it was him. So it was really cool.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Well, tell me about who Kimberly Butler McMillan is.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm a bit of a chameleon, I guess. I went to University of Western Ontario in Canada. I was going to be a journalist, as an English major, going to be a journalist, but then I ended up discovering medical sales. And so really went into medical sales for a number of years, and then found real estate. So right now I am blessed to have started up two companies with my husband. One's McMillan Luxury Group, where we focus on our thing is bringing luxury to home buyers and sellers. And so we help people choose their luxury. And luxury is not a price point, but it is indeed an experience. And so we're very blessed to help home buyers and sellers with their properties now. And then in addition, my medical sales background and my connections in orthopedics and pain for the years has led me to a business opportunity with a renowned Atlanta orthopedic surgeon who we're going to be starting up a company with as well. And that's McMillan Medical Group. And we're going to be distributing a phenomenal device that's going to be a game changer in orthopedics. So I'm very blessed to work in two industries simultaneously, as well as travel between two states. So we actively work in Georgia as well as now Pennsylvania, and bringing our real estate brokerage as well as our medical brokerage to both states.
Okay. So now that let's go back a little bit, because I want to know, what was it like? Did you grow up in Canada when your dad was a musician? Did you move to the States? What was it like? And then moving, obviously, from Canada to the States is different. What do you miss about Canada? What do you love about America? It's a lot of multiple questions there.
It is. So I was born in Montreal and grew up around Toronto. My parents moved us to Toronto when I was 3, and my mom and dad got a divorce. It was hidden from me that my father was gay, and I didn't find out that until I was 16. And so they got a divorce because of that when I was 3. Was blessed to have a wonderful stepfather come into our lives, Michael McGann, and he lived with us in Toronto until I was in high school, and then he moved us to the States, to Jackson, Tennessee. So that was a huge culture shock. I miss Canada terribly. Most of my family is now in the States. I have a bit of family still in Montreal, but I do go back to Canada about once a year. We have a cottage in Bracebridge, Ontario, and I love that. I feel like Canada is always my home. People just somehow get me in Canada, and I feel like when I hit the ground there, it's just something that's just very comforting and wonderful about that. So I think that I'm a true Canadian American, and there are a lot of us in the States, and it's just really, it's nice to have both nationalities in my family, and two homes where we can go back and forth.
So a high schooler coming, I mean, it's tough to change high schools, even, state to state or locally, going from Canada to America. Um, what was life like after getting here? And I know you said you Tennessee, Georgia. I mean, kind of, and then the fact that now you're discovering, about your father, and he's still making music, kind of,
Yes.
this life in the shadow of a Canadian, but now you're really way outside of the shadow.
Yeah. Well, I was born in 1976. And so I grew up most of my life in the late 80s, early 90s growing up. Um, and as I mentioned, I was living in Jackson, Tennessee, heart of the Bible Belt, and ended up going back to university in Canada. I had just kind of come to dealing with the fact that my father was gay, because I had come from the heart of the Bible Belt, where homosexuality wasn't something that you spoke about, wasn't something that you came forward with whatsoever. It was very hidden. Even going back to Canada and in university, to a certain extent, I had to grapple with whether I should even speak about it to anybody. So I felt like my life was kind of living in the shadows and a lot of secrecy. And then it really got a little bit worse, in which when I was 18, I got a phone call from my dad, and he had told us that he had had AIDS and had been living with it for a while. Um, what I wasn't prepared for was that he was at the late stages of AIDS, and I quickly became his caregiver, going back and forth from London, Ontario, where I went to school, and Toronto to take care of him on the weekends, and juggling work, my school work, as well as taking care of him. And unfortunately, he lost his battle to AIDS when he was only 53 years old, and it was in February of '96. And so, unfortunately, this world lost uh, a wonderful soul, wonderful musician, and I lost my best friend. And so that was really, really tough. And I think that um, I didn't know how to talk about my dad. At the time, I didn't know how um, to didn't feel comfortable speaking to anybody about it, because it was something that was such a faux pas. It was something that you just didn't speak about. You didn't speak about gay, and you didn't speak about AIDS. And so I what I did then was throw myself actually more into the AIDS community by joining the AIDS Committee of London, and becoming a certified AIDS speaker and educator, and helping be a caregiver to those people living with AIDS that perhaps didn't have family, or that their family didn't accept that they did have AIDS. And so they had nobody to help them, or even speak to them, or even have a friend. And so I was honored to be in that community, and they completely welcomed me, and shared the love. And it was, so that's how I kind of dealt with that. And I think being in Canada, perhaps they were a little bit more open, but we've come a long way in terms of LGBTQ rights, as well as the phenomenal medicines that are around for AIDS. There was no AIDS cocktail when my dad was dealing with it. So unfortunately, he just didn't have the same chance.
Wow. Like, I've known you for several years, and that's the first I've heard this story. I mean, granted, we don't sit around and talk about our parents or our relatives that much, but that was a phenomenal story. I mean, I kind of opened up a lot of emotional money in from people that I know passed from AIDS. That was a tough era in our society.
Terrible.
Now I think you said you just moved to Pennsylvania. You were in Georgia. New marriage, kind of. What's life like for you now?
Crazy. So back in 2005, I had met my first husband and had 3 babies with him. And unfortunately, that marriage didn't work out for a number of reasons. But and those reasons at that time had led me to work 2 jobs, and that's really how I kind of got into real estate as well as medical, and kind of really earned my stripes in both categories. Thank goodness I was working that hard, because I became a single mom back in, I guess it was 2017, and I worked my butt off and built a beautiful life as a single woman again with my 3 children. But I always wanted to get remarried again and hoped for love. And even though I had naysayers telling me that nobody would want a single woman with 3 kids, that all I should be expecting is a little whining and dining, I prayed about it, and I believe that God brought me my Prince Charming, Andy McMillan, who's an executive and creating wonderful things in his own career, and he's a VP of sales and marketing for a wonderful company, and that brought us now to Pennsylvania. And so things have been busy. We call ourselves the Brady Bunch, because not only do we have my 3 children, but Andy also has 3 kids that live with their mom in Georgia. And so we go back frequently, and both for work as well as seeing them. We just recently moved. So it's exciting. It's busy. And there's a lot of challenges that come with blending families, but we love the crazy, and life has brought us wonderful successes and abundance, and we're just so happy and blessed to have those wonderful gifts in our life.
Well, you guys as a family to sit down and watch. I think it's With 6 You Get Egg Roll. I think that was a 60s movie. I can't remember who was in it, but
I don't know.
I remember it's a blended family. Each have 3 kids. There's that one, and then is that the one with Doris Day? There's one with Doris Day and Brian Keith also. Anyway, so we're kind of getting close to our time. I like to try to keep these 30-minute-ish. What question did I not ask, or what is something you'd really like to share?
What I guess I'd like to share is, I think all of my experiences in my 48 years have in this beautiful time where I think you get a little older and you start reflecting upon your life, and you think, what would I like to accomplish? And I've had a lot of success in my career, and having my husband now has enabled me to take some time and really think, oh, what does Kimberly want to do next? And it's really about going back to my roots. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak about my dad, because it's actually something that he's been on my mind a lot lately. And when I see dragonflies, we know that Marty's watching, and I have his beautiful piano in my home still today. And we call our new home Dragonfly's Rest. So, but that being said, it's really allowed me to take note and go back to my roots. And now I'm becoming more and more involved with Aid Atlanta, and with an organization called Kate's Club as well, which helps heal and give a sense of community to children and teens that have lost their parents. So the next chapter is going to be a lot about charity and giving back and just wrapping those that are grieving with love, and whatever I can do to give back to the community is so important. Also, I really believe in lifting women up, and it was very challenging to be a single mom, and thank goodness that I was working when I got a divorce, because I wouldn't have had any means to leave. And so my goal is, as well as my charity work with AIDS and grieving, but also focusing on women. I'm a member of Atlanta Women's Empowerment Movement. We're hoping to open up a chapter in Pennsylvania as well. And it's just really about bringing a sense of community to women, and making them know that the glass ceiling can be shattered. And if you believe in yourself, magic will happen and great success will come. So that's what I'm hoping to give back to this earth.
Wow. You sound like you got a very busy future in front of you.
Yeah. It's
Going
exciting.
back to your dad really quick. What is your favorite song of his? What songs would you have people look up? Because he wrote a lot of songs for other people also. What are some of the songs you would tell people to go look up by other artists, and what is his favorite song that he does that you like?
Sure. Well, I guess if speaking to the Canadians, everybody's very well familiar with the Bells if you are of a certain age. And so his great hit for them was Fly Little White Dove Fly. And that's where he won the same award as Bryan Adams, and for the Canadian Classics Award. But my favorites by Marty Butler are a few songs. Here We Are Again, Take Another Look, Saving It Up, which has my heart, and The Morning After You. There's so many. And if you go on YouTube, it's awesome that he really does have a huge fan base still, and they've uploaded a number of songs with videos, and so you'll get to enjoy his music all the time. Even in Alexa, if you can say, Alexa, play Marty Butler, Canadian artist, and she'll bring it up as well. So I hope that your listeners will certainly enjoy listening to his music. And he sounds a little bit like Christopher Cross. So I guess that's the best way to describe his music. So if you like Christopher Cross, you'll love my dad.
Excellent. I want to look up the song he wrote for Trini Lopez. I'm a Trini Lopez fan. Anyway, Kimberly, it has been fun today. It's been a while since we had chatted, and this was a great, wonderful, fun day. I learned a whole lot about you and your family that I had no clue. And I want to thank you for being a guest today.
Thanks so much. It was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly, thank you for your heartfelt interview today. That was pretty amazing. I learned a lot about your dad that I didn't know. I'm now a fan of his music. All our Canadian friends up there, go back and listen to some Marty Butler music. It's pretty phenomenal. I want to thank visitmyrtlebeach.com. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com for their support of this podcast. If you want a nice, family-friendly vacation, be sure to go to visitmyrtlebeach.com. I want to thank Nelco Media. I want to thank Nelco Comics for this cool location, this actual comic book shop that we shoot in. And I want to thank you, the listener, for being here. I couldn't do this without you. I hope you'll tell all your friends, family, like, comment, share, and let's get the word out about Relatively Famous.
You've been listening to Relatively Famous with Chip White. Please like and subscribe to Relatively Famous with Chip White.